Hello ladies and gentlemen, Nick here and welcome to my review of Doctor Who Series 7 Episode 2, Dinosaurs on a Spaceship. Sorry if I sound a little worn out. I'm recording this only a few minutes after I finished my assignment of the Daleks rant / review, so forgive me for being a bit more tired for this story, even though I like this story a heck of a lot more. I said this was far superior. So, Dinosaurs on a Spaceship, I'll also try and make this one quicker, but I can't guarantee that it will be a quick one. So, okay, Dinosaurs on a Spaceship. The plot of this story sees the Doctor recruit a gang of friends to help him try to prevent a spaceship from crashing into Earth. A big giant spaceship the size of Canada that has the most precious cargo aboard. Basically, the last surviving dinosaurs left. It turns out that this is an ark created by the Silurians to place a couple of species from different dinosaurs, as well as some Silurians, on board to escape the catastrophe of a rock attempting to collide with Earth, which they feared would destroy life on Earth. This, of course, as explained in Doctor and the Silurians and the Hungry Earth and Cold Blood, turned out to be the Moon, and it got caught in Earth's gravitational belt. So, but basically, the Silurians didn't know that at the time, and they sent the Ark into space to try and find a new system. But now it's because a trader named Solomon has boarded. He's tampered with the machines, and now it's heading back to Earth. And the Indian Space Agency are threatening to blow it up with missiles because it threatens Earth. So that's basically the plot of Dinosaurs on a Spaceship. The Doctor and company have to save the dinosaurs and prevent the spaceship from being destroyed by the missiles. And also stop Solomon, as he's not a very nice guy. More on him in a bit. So, Dinosaurs on a Spaceship. What do I think? Like I said, it's a fun story. It's really enjoyable and really entertaining. It's a fun little episode. We first of all see the Doctor picking up Queen Nefertiti in Egypt in about, what was it, 1337 BC, which before that year, 2012, was apparently when she was claimed to have died, although in 2012 they found information that she might have survived up to 1330 BC. This is BC, so the years going backwards as opposed to forwards. But yeah, but he picks up her, and then he goes to pick up Riddell from about 1902 AD. I think Riddell is just this guy the Doctor hangs out sometimes. He's a big African game hunter, and played by Detective Lestrade himself, from the 2010 Sherlock series, Rupert Graves, and he is fantastic. He might be the best supporting actor in this story, although David Bradley does come a close second. We'll get to him. Nefertiti's actor is also really good, although Riddell's character is more interesting, which is a shame because Nefertiti's a historical figure. But anyway, and then the Doctor picks up the Ponds because it's Series 7 Part 1. We've got to have the Ponds, even if they're not permanent TARDIS residents. They're the incumbent companions, but they're not permanent on the TARDIS. They've got their own lives, but they have occasional travels with the Doctor. However, the gaps are getting longer. It's been 10 months since their last visit. So yeah, the Doctor's infrequently travelling with the Ponds. I wonder if he's travelling with some of those comic series companions or potential future audio companions at the same time, because he, after the Angels Take Manhattan, he's going to be in a depressed state until he meets up with Clara. But he'll probably still have a few more adventures with other people before that, or after that, or after the Snowmen, perhaps. But yeah, so I'm wondering if he travels with other people in the meantime. But he still goes back for the Ponds because they're his best friends of this incarnation. Amy was the first person he ever met in that incarnation, and of course they're his parents-in-law, obviously. So yeah, he picks them up along with Brian Williams, Rory's dad, played by the magnificent Mark Williams. Okay, I take it back. Mark Williams is the best thing of this story. Mark Williams as Brian Williams. Brian Williams. Hey, they've got the same surname as Brian Williams. This is probably the best thing Chris Chibnall has ever done for Doctor Who, is the creation of Brian Williams. Brian Williams is just so fantastic, and Mark Williams is outstanding in the role. Brilliant character, brilliant performance. I think he's even better when we get to the Power of Three, but he's just so great here. So he's accidentally brought on board as well, and he joins the adventure, and the Doctor, Rory, and Brian go down to what's supposedly a beach, but it turns out to be the engine room, wave engine, meaning that the small group left elsewhere on the ship have to be led by Amy. So that's Riddell and Nefertiti. Those are the ones who, I was going to say they didn't do an awful lot, but they're the ones who find out it's the Silurian Ark. Plus, there's a pretty good tensional bit with a Triceratops nest. Meanwhile, the Doctor, Rory, and Brian encounter pterodactyls on the beach, and then two very big, but not very intelligent robots, voiced by Mitchell and Webb themselves, David Mitchell and Robert Webb, who bring him to Solomon, played by David Bradley, who is our villain of the story. He has been injured by the raptors, but the Doctor fixes him up, although Solomon does threaten to harm Rory and Brian if he doesn't help him without asking any questions. As he's demonstrated on attacking Brian. There's some good Rory and Brian father-son relationship stuff around this point as well. By the way, some good stuff between the two of them. Eventually they escape and they ride a Triceratops that the Doctor calls Tricy, and that's a really fun moment and really entertaining. But before that, we got a pretty serious moment where the Doctor's found out from Amy that it's a Silurian Ark, and he's confronted Solomon about it, who has confirmed he killed the lizards so he could get the dinosaurs. So, yeah, he's the big baddie of the story, and he's not a nice guy. But David Bradley does a great performance there. Eventually, the Doctor and company escape from him, but they're unsuccessful to prevent the Indian Space Security Space Agency from sending up missiles to destroy the spaceship. Solomon initially doesn't believe that they are, but now he knows that they are. And he's now threatening to take Nefertiti as his prize instead of the dinosaurs, as he can't live and keep the dinosaurs, but he's going to take Nefertiti as she's even more valuable. You know, I want to talk about that Triceratops for a minute. That Triceratops Tricy, she was a fun character, you know. I mean, yeah, she's just a dinosaur, and she's just a mix of CG and prosthetics or practical. But yeah, I think they use some practical stuff in this story. There are some CG moments, but they do use some practical stuff. Hey, it looks more realistic than Invasion of the Dinosaurs ever did. So, yeah, I'm wondering if that story will get a CGI option version of the story included on the Season 11 Blu-ray, if that ever gets released. But yeah, the dinosaurs in this story look pretty realistic. There's a mix of CG and practical effects. So, yeah, I mean, sometimes they may look more CG, but there are definitely times where you notice the practical, so it does look realistic. Heck, there's more practicals shown on screen than in the Jurassic World films, the 4th and 5th Jurassic Park films, because they may have CG'd over any practical effects. But this time they have a good blend of them, especially for a BBC TV budget in 2012. But yeah, but I think that Triceratops Tricy is a good character. Perhaps, like Mr. TARDIS Review says in his own review, she could have her own spin-off. Kids would love her. I mean, the Sarah Jane Adventures isn't showing anymore because Sarah Jane actress Elizabeth Sladen passed away a year earlier. And Torchwood's not showing anymore either for some reason. And there won't be another Doctor Who spin-off until 2016, and that'll be a young adult aimed audience. So could have a spin-off featuring Tricy the Triceratops, which could be a children's series. Heck, it could be animated for all I care. Just be a good series, wouldn't it? Just maybe Tricy's hanging out with her dinosaur friends. It could have been a good series. What do you think, Solomon? Kill that dinosaur! Not Tricy. Not Tricy! You bastard! You bastard! You... So as you can tell from that little skit, that was basically just some fun light relief during the middle of the review. But yeah, basically what happens is Solomon orders one of the robots, probably the David Mitchell voiced one, because the David Mitchell one is probably the one that gets the most to say in the episode, so it's probably that one. Solomon orders one of the robots, probably David Mitchell one, to kill the Triceratops, which he does. This does show a great moment where the Doctor and friends are devastated at this, and the Doctor is pretty pissed off. You know, throughout this story, he's been quite fun character, but there are definitely moments where he's showing his darker cross side. And yeah, this bit, as well as the bit where Solomon tells him about the Silurians, and one other bit later on, which I'll get to, definitely show him being pretty pissed. But he's not. He's trying not to show it. He's showing that he's cross, but he's not going to raise his voice. He's still going to remain calm. I don't know if I've said this before, but isn't Matt Smith fan-dabby-doozy-tastic? Well, I've said he's fantastic, but have I said he's fan-dabby-doozy-tastic? So yeah, anyway, so Neffy goes at her own accord to Solomon so that everyone else is okay, left okay. So the Doctor then has to come up with a quick way to save the day. Now, I will say the climax does come as a bit of a quick pace as Solomon takes Neffy and the missile's on the way and he's like, bingo, and I am the Doctor plays, and he is a bit hurried, but you know, the climax is still pretty good with Rory and Brian fly the spaceship. Amy and Riddell take on the Raptors with stun guns, and the Doctor rescues Nefertiti and puts the cord that the missiles are locking onto from the big spaceship onto Solomon's shuttle, and he leaves Solomon and his robots to die. Now, there is a moment where the Doctor does look like he might spare Solomon. He might let him live. He might give him the chance. He explains what's going to happen, and he's about to put his plan into action, but he might still just let Solomon live, perhaps. But then Solomon tries to bribe him, and that is basically, along with all the other crimes he's committed in this episode. Again, Mr. TARDIS review basically lists off quite a few, but they also include murdering an innocent, killed off Trice, so it's murder, assault, threatening to murder, kill, assaulting royalty, and he's piracy. And he's basically been a dick throughout the story, but now bribery. So there's no hope for this character. That's it. The Doctor's like, nope, I'm gonna leave you. Bye. And you know what? Yeah, I mean, if this was David Tennant, I don't even think he would have gotten that second chance. He probably wouldn't have gotten that second chance. And Matt Smith looks like he's going to give Solomon that one opportunity to beg to save him, but. Well, Solomon does, but he does it through bribery as opposed to begging. I think there is that brief moment where the Doctor does consider saving Solomon and maybe the robots too, if there's time. But with that bribery, definitely not. And like I said, if this was David Tennant, you probably wouldn't even have gotten that. So yeah, no second chances for this character. So the Doctor just basically lets him blow up. So yeah, this could be argued to be an out of character moment for the Doctor, but honestly, the Doctor doesn't always give second chances, especially the 10th Doctor. And like I said, there was that moment where he considered it, but then Solomon tried to bribe him. So yeah, so the Doctor leaves Solomon to be destroyed by the missiles, and he has the planet sent to a new planet called Siluria. He drops everyone back home. It turns out Nefertiti went to live with Riddell, which could explain her disappearance back in 1337, or at least until new evidence shows she lived until 1330 came around. And then Amy and Rory dropped back home, but Brian also goes travelling. And that's after a nice little bit where he sits out the TARDIS having his tea and a sandwich looking over Earth. Although the CGI apparently gets windows wrong, according to Benji Clifford's review on the 5 Who Fans channel. But yeah, well, I have an even bigger problem. The postcard the Doctor sends Amy and Rory about when he's on Siluria, that's the wrong TARDIS. The TARDIS is in the picture. That's the wrong TARDIS exterior. That's the last TARDIS, the 10th and 9th Doctor's TARDIS. And that's the same TARDIS that's used in the 13th Doctor intro reveal as opposed to the 12th Doctor's TARDIS. I get that they wouldn't want to use the new 13th Doctor TARDIS. It may not have been built yet, but they don't use the 11th, 12th Doctor's TARDIS exterior for that. Instead, they use the 9th and 10th. And they use that here as well instead of the 11th, first one, exteriors. So yeah, so I have a bigger issue with the wrong TARDIS being used in that photo than the wrong TARDIS windows being in the CG shot of the TARDIS that is supposed to be in this episode. Okay, so Dinosaurs on a Spaceship. Overall, this is a fun, engaging, entertaining, and well-made story. The plot is great, the characters are great, acting is great. It's not completely perfect, but it's still a fun, enjoyable, entertaining romp of adventure. Amy and Rory are treated far better than they were in the last story, and you know what? I might start caring about them again if they're going to stay like this throughout the rest of the series. But last series really was the point. But the last episode really did push it into the point of no return. It's just damn lucky you got writers like Chris Chibnall and Toby Whithouse to help bring it back to what it was before, maybe even better in places, thanks to after Stephen Moffat ruined his own characters. How do you do that anyway? You're just lucky Chris Chibnall and Toby Whithouse are also writing episodes in this half of the series. Because they're going to need Chris Chibnall both times in both scripts in this half of the series, and Toby Whithouse's one. Well, to be honest, actually, Amy and Rory don't really do an awful lot in Town Called Mercy. So actually, it really is Chris Chibnall who saves the day when it comes to Amy and Rory. So, yeah. Say what you like about the Chibnall era, but he saves Amy and Rory. And he saves the Daleks when it gets to resolution. So, yeah. And Dinosaurs on a Spaceship, it's a really fun, really engaging story. Yeah, it's not completely perfect. Sometimes the robots can be a bit annoying. Nefertiti's not the most interesting character, despite being a historical character. And I will say, despite historicals being one of the stronger elements of Chibnall's era, some historical characters, I'm looking at you, Ada Lovelace, / Gordon, and Noor India Khan, don't get as much, and having the same issue with Nefertiti, that they praised for how great they are, but we don't really see them being that great or being that interesting. I mean, they're good. They're not bad. Not at all. Not in the slightest. But they could have had a little bit done extra. But there are historical characters in the Chibnall era who are phenomenal. Rosa Parks, James the First, well, /6 of Scotland, first of England. Mary Shelley and her husband / would-be husband Percy. There's some, and Nicholas Hessler and Thomas Edison. There's quite a few great historical characters in the Chibnall era, but but the ones in Spyfall Part 2 had lacked some of that because it wasn't really about them, and that's the same thing with Nefertiti here. But what we get for both this story with Nefertiti and for the two characters I mentioned in Spyfall Part 2, the two historical characters just mentioned, they're still all done good. It's just that not quite as good as some other historical characters throughout, not just in Chibnall's era, but also in Moffat and RTD's. Maybe slightly better than some classic series ones, though. Not so much in the historical stories, but some of the ones in the sci-fi story, yeah. But yeah, this not really many problems with this story. I mean, it's not perfect. I think the climax is slightly not rushed, but hurried. It's in a faster pace. It could have slowed down a little bit, but you know, on the whole, I think Dinosaurs on a Spaceship is a fun, enjoyable, entertaining story. And after the last episode, which was an absolute shitfest, and with the three stories before that being meh, even though the Closing Time and Wedding River Song has some really cool moments in there, those stories, and really great bits, and they kind of had some bits that kind of ruined them. That's why they went to why they're meh territory. And then Doctor Wizard in the Wardrobe was also meh. So after 4 meh or worse episodes in a row, despite the first 2 of them having some really cool bits in them, it's great that Chris Chibnall can basically brings us the first good script since Toby Whithouse's The God Complex. So yeah, I'm going to praise Chibnall for what he does right, okay? I'll criticise him for what he does wrong, but I'll praise him for what he does right. It's the same with Moffat, it's the same with RTD, it's the same with any writer. So, yeah, there's no bias here. If someone does something right, they get positive reception, and if they do something wrong, they get a negative reception, okay? That's how it works here. And in my mind, Dinosaurs on a Spaceship is a fun, inventional romp of a story. It's the best story since The God Complex, and it fixes the Amy-Rory relationship just about. Introduces Brian Williams. We get a great character in Riddell as well, and Solomon is a deliciously baddie villain. Nefertiti's alright too. But yeah, it's a fun, enjoyable adventure, and I like how Chris Chibnall uses the Silurians in this story. That is nice. A bit like how Toby Whithouse uses the Trivalorians, which was David Walliams' character's species in the God Complex. Again, he'll have one of those in Under the Lake and Before the Flood in Series 9. Although those alien races were Toby Whithouse's creation, whilst the Silurians, Chris Chibnall just wrote the first story of the new series they appeared in. But to be honest, it's nice that he did have them cameo here. So yeah, overall, Dinosaurs on a Spaceship, I'm going to give this story an 8 out of 10. It's not a masterpiece, it's not perfect, but I still think it's a fun, enjoyable, entertaining story, and certainly the strongest episode since the God Complex so far, and it could possibly be the strongest episode of Series 7 Part 1, and one of the stronger episodes of Series 7. We'll see how the rest of Series 7 Part 1 and the rest of Series 7 go. After the absolute worst story of the series, we got one of the potential best. A definite candidate. It's definitely the best of this half of the series. So, yeah, that's it from my review of Dinosaurs on a Spaceship. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time for Toby Whithouse's Series 7 script, A Town Called Mercy. And it's the first historical set story of the series. And the only, well, no, it's not the only one of Series 7 Part 1. We've got Angels Take Manhattan as well. But yeah, the first historical set story of the series. And I'll see you guys next time for that story. Goodbye. Don't forget to click below to subscribe to the official Nicholas Payne Retro YouTube channel. So that's basically the plot. But he's probably got some more event and more event. He'll probably still have some more event. That's it, Nefertiti. Yeah, those two don't really. He had been injured by raptors, but the Doctor, just although not really that much. So, and you know what, but they definitely look pretty real. But heck, it's more. They use more practical. I don't know if I've said this already, but isn't Matt Smith absolutely fan-dabby-doozy fantastic? I don't know if I've said this before, but But have I said he's fan-dabby-doozy fantastic? But honestly, like I said, especially consider. So, yeah, and like I said, this time the Doctor seemed like he might give him a second chance if it wasn't for that bribe offer. So, yeah, that was. But they don't even show. They don't use the 12th Doctor's TARDIS. They Photoshop a 9th, 10th Doctor's TARDIS in. It's just you're just lucky, Chris Chibnall and Toby Whitwell. You're just lucky, Toby. But that being said, they're still done really well. But that being said, what we do get is still really good. For both this and for Spyfall Part 2. But what we get for both, but more in the sci-fi ones, sometimes.